Hello and welcome to Music Rewind, a podcast where we look to tell the stories behind our favorite albums. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and in each episode, we invite a guest on to tell us about their favorite music album, how they discovered it, and what makes it special to them.
Actually, today, I am your host, Alan Ziegler. You may remember me from such episodes as Band on the Run, which was the very first Music Rewind episode in November 2021?
Oh, long ago. Yeah.
And I was also on some of the classic rock roundtables and several of the Out on the Tiles live streams. Today, we will be officially closing out season 4 by flipping the script yet again and putting our regular host in the hot seat. You know Steve as the host of podcast Music Rewind and Cinema Decon, and several guest appearances on many other podcasts. Welcome, Steve. Thank you for being on the show, your show.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for coming back and doing this again. Wonderful to be here.
Are you so surprised that you're on the show right now?
Yeah. Oh. Well, we usually don't get as high caliber guests as me.
There you go.
Yes.
So, what album did you bring to the table and what makes it special to you?
So, there are albums that you enjoy, and there are albums that weave themselves into the very fabric of your life, becoming a soundtrack for your highs, lows, and everything in between. For me, one of those albums is Jackson Browne's Running on Empty. This album was very special to me for many reasons. It became ingrained in my life roughly around age 11, maybe 10. It was right there when I started stealing cassettes from my dad. I had already dove into his old vinyl collection, to get the old Eagles albums and Pink Floyd, stuff like that. But it was the cassettes that he had is where I got, the Tom Petty albums, the Wilbury albums, and several others. But one of them was Running on Empty. And I knew nothing about Jackson Browne. I didn't know about The Pretender. I didn't know about any of that stuff. All I knew was this album. And it really kind of just stuck with me. It was something that it has evolved in its importance to me over time. Different songs hitting home for me at different eras in my life, but all of them good in their own right. And it was really cool because my dad would listen to this with me, and he would actually use some of these songs as like life lessons that made so much sense to me. And we'll get to that in some of the tracks. But the throughout high school, I eventually bought the CD once I had actual money. So I had it with me. But I remember keeping this CD hidden inside the Blizzard of Oz case from Ozzy, so that my friends would not know that I was listening to Jackson Browne.
You would lose your cool factor.
I would lose some cool cred points in high school. Yeah, so I had to hide it.
Oh my.
Nobody ever opened the Blizzard of Oz case.
Right. So you happened upon it by chance and luck that your dad had this cassette, right? You might not have discovered it otherwise.
Probably eventually, because eventually I learned more about Jackson Browne, like say through The Pretender and
the Eagles, of course.
And then I found out, he wrote Take It Easy, and it was good friends with the Eagles, and Glenn Frey's even on this album. But the two things just kind of intertwined right at the right time when my dad was playing me a lot of music, and I was just discovering, I would say, more modern music at that time. This was say 90, 91. This was the year of Into the Great Wide Open, the Black Album from Metallica. Just that 1991 year, which was awesome, which we talked about in a previous episode for Tom Petty. But this album was just so different. It was a live album, but it's not a live album. It's recorded all over the place, but yet has such a studio feel at certain times. Right. How the hell did they get the studio sound out of a room in the Holiday Inn? It's fantastic.
Yeah. not to interrupt, but on one of my notes, I have, do you think most people even know this is a live album? Because it was recorded so well and it sounds so good. And there's not a whole lot of crowd noise in the song itself. I bet people don't even realize it's probably a live album.
I don't know. They might not, because it's done so well.
Yeah.
With some songs are even half and half.
Right.
And one song literally recorded on a bus.
Yeah, you can hear the engine noise and the
Yes.
quiet parts, especially on the vinyl. You can really hear it.
Now, do you know of any other album that is like this?
I don't think there was any album, any rock album, I don't know, maybe some other genres, where he pulled out new songs live and then put them out. Like all live albums were always of studio recordings that you knew.
Right. The hits already.
Yeah. Yeah. He pulled these out in a short little tour and at the end of 77, and then audience response obviously was good. You can hear it on the album, and he must have thought it was good enough to put out, and we're lucky that he did.
I did learn eventually about how, in personal choices here and there, to each their own, but I guess his wife committed suicide, and I don't have her name handy, prior to this album. And instead of taking time off to like be with this kid who was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years old and focus on that, he kind of did the opposite thing. And he's like, I'm just going to go on the road for 90% of my life. And I'm going to channel my grief that way. And that eventually turned into this album. Now, not something I would do. I would make, different choices there, but everything's kind of worked out in the end. I don't know the kid or anything of that nature, but that dedication and the desire to live on the road for that long and dive into this comes through in the album to me. I mean, this is almost like an audio documentary of life on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was like a catharsis. He was working his grief through and everything else.
So something that I do whenever I review an album or a movie for my other shows and stuff like that is I'll make a quick list of the single words that come to mind, and it helps me write my reviews. And I just wanted to throw them out here. The ones that I wrote for this are honest, authentic, raw, humility, unique, sing along, which is not a single word, but I can sing this entire album just like in the car by myself, and timeless. I think that in 50 years, this album is still going to be just as good as it is today. It has a timeless feel to it.
That's interesting that my note is cocaine. It's mentioned twice on side one. I mean, it has a full song dedicated to it, but it's also mentioned in another song on side one as well. So
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
That might have helped him through some of his grief as well. Now that you mention it, but that was my like one word take on the note. But so this is a live album, obviously, or maybe not so obviously for some people might not even know that. But so how do you listen to it? Do you skip around, or you just put it on side one and you go?
It's evolved over the years. There are certain tracks that I do love to listen to just as singles. But I do love listening to this all the way through. In one of my other shows that I co-host on, Thrash N Treasure, I ask guests, what is their road music? What do they put on when they're about to get on a plane or on a long road trip? Just that they can listen to and just gets them to their destination. This album, not single tracks, this album is the top of my travel music.
Nice.
I will put this on, and that crowd noise at the beginning of Running on Empty just puts me in my happy place. Where they count in the band, which I love that. And boom, you're off. I know that a lot of people run to this album, which I don't quite understand, because I understand Forrest Gump ran to Running on Empty in the movie, which was a cool moment for me at the time, because I was like, hey, I know that song. That's on one of my favorite albums. But this album itself does not lend itself to a good running cadence as a whole.
I wouldn't think so, but I don't run. So yeah.
But yeah, like the I do try to listen to it as a whole whenever I can. And it's one that in this day of Spotify and other streamers, you can pick up right where you left off. I don't have to let me skip this song, let me bounce around. I can listen to it straight through.
Yeah, I've listened to the vinyl twice in the last week, and I could skip around, but I feel like it loses the whole. And when they put it on record, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way they did in concert either. But you can probably see maybe that this was the flow, especially with the last song. And the first song seems to make sense too. Even though it's like wow, what a first song to just kick off the album now. It's a strong tune.
It is. It's the perfect kickoff, like you said. Running on Empty, track 1. Recorded live in 77 at the Merriweather Post Pavilion, Columbia, Maryland. It sets the pace for the whole album as far as what you're into with that documentary of the road, like I mentioned, because it's sometimes the lyrics of this album, either written by Jackson Browne or not, do get very poetic, and I do love that, but sometimes they're just very blunt right for you.
Yeah.
Running on empty, running blind. That says it all right there. You don't know where you're going, but you're still moving forward.
You're going, yeah. Yeah, and I can say that, I don't know, during a little rough patch in my life, I can remember looking up these lyrics and thinking, I can relate to some of this stuff. Obviously, he's talking about the road, literally, but everybody talks about the road of life. It doesn't necessarily mean it's actually about the road and touring and things. If it takes all night, that'll be all right. I can get you to smile before I leave. Those are probably groupies or things that are happening on the road at the time. But there's other lines in there that
I like the line.
I don't think they're all about the road.
Oh, I like the line, though. I don't know when the road turned on to the road I'm on.
Yes.
That one's pretty profound there, because you can eat it whether you're like Talking Heads. How did I get here? What that is, it's just, I'm not complaining about where I'm at. I love where I'm at. But then you look at how the hell did I get here? And that's what that's saying.
Yeah. I don't know where I'm running now. I'm just running on. This is what I do. This is how it is. Yeah, some of those lines are so good.
I read that on one of the re-releases. They cut out the audience in the count-in at the beginning. They cut that bit off.
Yeah,
and it pissed off a lot of people.
It ruins the whole concert feel of it by not having that.
Yeah, it takes, I love it because if you listen real close and if you've got the right headphones and everything, you can hear him actually say the first line of the song before the count-in.
Oh, really? I'll have to put the headphones on and listen to that.
Yeah, it's a neat little moment with you, because I've listened to it several times this week, just over and over again.
And you know, something else that was surprising about this, we talked about none of these songs were ever on an album before, but of the 10 songs, he only wrote 2 completely by himself.
Yeah.
And there's 4 co-written, and then there's 4 totally written by somebody else.
Yeah, there's 4 covers, and then there's several that were written by other members of his band and the crew, like literally the crew. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's very unusual too, I thought. But
yeah, it just goes to the uniqueness of that whole album. Because this next track 2, is a cover, originally written by Danny O'Keefe, but this is The Road.
Highways and dance halls, a good song takes you far. You write about the moon and you dream about the stars.
And this is that one that's half and half. And I did not know that until years later. Never clicked with me. It's seamless.
Yeah, the sound quality, you can tell there's a switch, but I never really thought about it as being in 2 separate places recorded. I always thought, okay, maybe everybody in the auditorium was real quiet or something.
That's exactly what I thought for years, because say right about just before 3 minutes, it's just there's a brief moment of silence, then it's just another time. I mean,
when you stop to let them know you got it down. It's just another town along the road.
And the crowd here comes in. It's like almost like they had permission now to cheer along.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into the David Lindley stuff, but because that guy was just a phenomenal multi-instrumentalist kind of guy. But that fiddle playing and that song is just so nice.
It adds to that emotional atmosphere of this song, because this song is one of my all-time favorite songs. When I guested on another show, Keith Higgins' Mix and Match podcast, I had to create my own playlist of songs that were special to me, and this was on it. And this is a song, it's like a deep reflection of the sacrifices of your life, and you're chasing your dreams, and you're looking back on the things that you've done, sure. But for me, it wasn't really any of that. It was just loneliness on the road. And so this one, when I was in the service, when I was gone from home for a long time, when I was overseas, this song always hit me in the feels. And I've always treasured this song quite a bit. And not so much recently when I was on the road with my son, who was doing the Peter Pan Broadway tour, but I'm glad that's done now. But when he was on it, it made me think of this song. And I listened to it quite a bit when I was on the road with him. Definitely different now, more, I don't know. I won't say I'm more mature, but I'm aged.
The song took on a different meaning.
Right.
Is what you're saying, basically. I just love the tempo changes and the volume changes in the song. It's such a nice feel. And any band that can do that, to me, exceptional musicians, exceptional.
Well, to touch on the band at the moment, the band is called The Section.
Yeah.
And they were apparently a who's who of the most amazing musicians at the time. Mm-hmm. And because of the length of the tour and his desire to stay on the road for so long, he was able to get these guys and tour with them, including David Lindley and others, Danny Kachmar, Craig Dorsch, several others, Russ Kunkel on drums.
Leland Sklar on the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And several great backup singers as well. And he said at one point that he finally got the session musicians he wanted to make a great album, and it was his touring band.
And I think those same guys, they have a documentary out now about themselves, don't they?
Oh,
sure. It's similar. I'm pretty sure I saw it. It's out, but it's on one of the pay apps that I don't have. It's similar to the Wrecking Crew, that documentary. That it's their version. I'm pretty sure it's out. So I was
check that out.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Yeah. Any more about track 2, or you want to go to track 3, Rosie?
Track 3, Rosie.
When you turn out the light, I got to hand it to me. Looks like it's me and you again tonight, Rosie.
The differing opinions on what Rosie is about.
Oh, I think it's pretty clear what Rosie's about.
It's not about a person named Rosie.
This is one that my dad made jokes with me about it as a kid, but not for the reason you might think. It had nothing to do with the whole, obviously, masturbation target of the song. It was actually the other side of the message, and it got a good laugh from us, like it's who you look like, not who you are.
By now you'd think I'd learned that is who you look like, not who you are. You gotta keep that in mind, though.
I felt bad for the sound guy. And then he has that moment in the song. The more I watched them play, the less I thought of to say. That line is, I've been there, dude. Yeah, just, if you're with a pretty girl, yet you cannot find words.
And things you want to say, you fear saying them because it might sound stupid once they come out. That type of thing. Beautiful blending of voices in the song itself, with the background singers and his voice. That's a good.
Say, this was recorded in the big rehearsal room at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center in Saratoga Springs, New York.
Nice. Track 4 was definitely a radio hit.
When you look over your shoulder and you see the life that you've left behind.
I would assume it was a nice radio-friendly one, but I don't know if they chart or anything.
That, I don't know. I think it wasn't released as a single. I've heard it on Black Radio.
Yeah, I've heard it once in a while. I used to skip it in high school, but I've grown to love it. And that's just being honest of it. It's not one that I relate to lyric-wise, but it's a great tune. Like the back and forth of two people who hate each other, but they keep going back to each other.
They did release it as a single, but it only made it to one on that.
Ah,
So it wasn't really a,
must have been the third or fourth single then.
it was a third single. I remember hearing it on rock radio all the time. I always thought it was a really great song, but the slide guitar playing on it, just, oh man.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. I can't say enough about David Lindley and this, gosh, just great.
Just to, unless you got more to say on Thunder, going into track 5, Cocaine, this is to me, the David Lindley showcase.
The fiddle playing and, oh man, yeah.
This was one of the others that was a life lesson to me as an
Was it
impressionable.
sniffing at the end, or was it just the
It was the lyric. Son, it says here you're 27, but that's impossible.
right? Yeah, anti-drug song if there ever was.
It was.
I was talking to my doctor down at the hospital. He said, son, it says here you're 27, but that's impossible. Cocaine, you look like you could be 45.
This is coming from people who know.
Lived it. Who lived it?
I'm going to take their advice. I have no desire to do that drug ever, and I never did, and I have no desire to, and here I am turning 45 this year, so lyric hits harder.
Yeah. We
Now,
won't
but
go
this
into-
is definitely worth mentioning that guitar instrumental interlude in the middle. It's brilliant. It's so Southern blues slide guitar. It's great. Love it.
Definitely. Totally agree with you on that one. Totally.
My dad would always turn up the very end of the song where they're talking at the end. Just what you need is a clear mind. Clear mind to take it or a clear mind not to take it.
Yeah, you don't know if he was actually that screwed up and he was saying that, or he was trying to be funny while he was saying that and they were doing this. Like,
The way they laugh, he says, like I say, it takes a clear mind to make it.
Well, I tell you what it does take. It takes a clear mind. That's what it takes.
You mean it takes a clear mind to take it or a clear mind not to take
It
it?
takes a clear mind to make it.
And their laugh at the end is so real. I assume it's got to be just them riffing while is this one of the Holiday Inn ones? Yeah, this was recorded in a Holiday Inn in Illinois.
yeah, Southern Illinois University, right? What would have been, isn't that where Edwardsville is? Or-
Yeah, SIU. Yeah,
So somewhere, so historically a party school. So apparently
true.
it was way back then too.
There's additional lyrics by Glenn Frey, and I don't know if he played on it or not. Partial lyrics from Glenn Frey on that one.
Gotcha.
Great ending to side A too. I mean,
Yeah. What a great ending.
honestly, I would put that one or the next track over "You Love the Thunder" as to release as a single, but I don't think they ever did. But I don't know if this version of Cocaine could be released as a single on public airwaves. It's a little different than Cocaine Blues or Clapton's Cocaine.
Clapton's Cocaine, yeah.
This one's pretty specific.
Now I'm losing touch with reality and I'm almost out of blow. Such a fine line, I hate to see it go. Cocaine running all around my brain.
It's very raw. Yeah, that will probably, I can just see the bigwigs behind the record company going, oh, no way, no, we're not touching that. Nope. But yeah, that's so side 2 starts out with Shaky Town. I put a country feel with a reference to truckers and CB radios.
That's a big 10-4 from your back door. Just put that hammer down.
It's got that country feel to it.
So at this time that I was listening to this, I worked at Sap Brothers.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, the truck stop there in the Illinois Valley. I was I was a dishwasher, so living the high life. Yeah, but so this song helped me feel with that crowd. I heard it many times at the truck stop. This was a popular song played over the loudspeakers. Yeah. Let's see, this one was written by Danny Koshmer, who also sings harmony. And I found a piece of trivia that you could also spot Danny as an early bassist on This Is Spinal Tap.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's some interesting trivia.
Yeah. But this is one of those sing-along ones to me. That's a big 10 for you. You can sing that at the top of your lungs while you're driving your car and just
washing your dishes.
Yeah, it's a good smile song. It's life on the road, but less melancholy and reflective as The Road. This one's more like, I love this life.
Yeah. More positive feel to that one. Yeah. And then you have song 2, Love Needs a Heart.
So this one is like just pure raw emotion.
Proud and alone, cold as a stone, rolling down that hill into the night. I could see the surprise and the hurt in your eyes.
Yeah, it's the love ballad that was, obligatory, I'm sure. We got to have a love ballad on here. I think it was written by possibly one of the female singers, but don't quote me on that. I don't have a note there. I may have read that or may not have. It's a tragic love song as far as he needs someone that he can't find, or he's longing from afar, that sort of thing. But when he sings that chorus towards the end, I wish that heart was mine, you feel it. And I've always loved the song.
So it was written by Browne. So it was written by Jackson Browne, Valerie Carter, and Lowell George. So Lowell George was a member of Little Feat.
Oh, that's the Little Feat song. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not on the list as far as backup singers for the album.
Gotcha. Now, is this what I read, that she was also the inspiration for Steve Winwood's song Valerie? This is the Valerie.
Oh, really?
So she must have been one heck of a person.
Popular, yeah.
This Valerie. Yeah.
Didn't the Monkees have a Valerie too?
Yeah, that's right. Of course, they didn't write it.
I have never met a Valerie in my life.
Was that a Neil Diamond pen tune, Valerie? I don't know. We'd have to look that one up. I like that synthy mini moog solo or whatever instrument that is, and that song's neat too.
Yeah, they blend it well with the guitar and the vocals that kind of go one into the other.
I wish that heart was mine.
Yeah, it's a nice solo.
I'm typically not a synth kind of guy, but it does really work well in that song. So that takes us into song 3. Now this song is probably one of the most unusual on the album, I would say. I don't know what the word is there, but this has all kinds of stuff going on.
Rolling down 295 out of Portland, Maine. Still high from the people up there, feeling no pain. Gonna make it to New Jersey, gonna set it up and do it again.
A footnote on this song that I love, because this is the one that's recorded on the tour bus heading towards New Jersey, is that Russ Kunkel is credited as playing, quote, snare, hi-hat, and cardboard box with foot pedal.
Oh, man. I don't know if there's weed or cocaine involved with this song as well.
I want video. No one on that bus said, hey, let's find a way to get a video camera recording this, because this is so cool.
I looked all over YouTube and I could not find any video from this specific tour. I didn't look for days on end or whatever, but I found one from a tour right after this tour, like the next tour the following year, but I never actually found any video from any of these songs or this album or anything documented.
Yeah, because I was looking for some David Lindley stuff and Stay came up, and it is pretty spot on to exactly what's on this album. And we'll get to that one, but I wanted to see him sing the part.
Yeah, I know. I wonder how he's doing that we'll get to that one.
Yeah,
we got to talk about the bus noise during the time, which is so cool.
You could hear it shifting gears, you hear it revving up. you're paying attention to you can hear the crosstalk between the people at different points in time. Like I forget what he exactly says, but before certain like solos or something, you can hear Jackson directing like kind of the band a little bit, like saying, "All right, you're up," yeah. And then somebody else jams on their instrument for a little bit.
Yeah. And then you hear him say talk about Silver Eagle, since it's a Silver Eagle. There's a lyric about
the Continental Silver Eagle.
Got a bottle of wine, pass it on. Got a broken white line, I'm still so. There ain't nothing but time between this Silver Eagle and that New Jersey line.
That's cool.
And as far as recording location, it has it on the line of that recorded quote on a bus somewhere in New Jersey.
We don't know. That had to been a lot of fun on that tour. Other than, of course, what Jackson Browne's probably dealing with personally. But it sounds like they did have some fun on that tour.
I can't blame the guy for going the route of, you hear how much fun they're having. And I'm just going to dive in and enjoy myself doing what I love rather than grieving in the traditional way. I can't blame the guy.
Yeah.
It's really cool at the very end of this song also how it leads into the loadout, track 9, as far as the live aspect. They bring in you actually hear the intro to the loadout on track 8. It's at the end. So if you skip to track 9, you just hear the beginning of the song. You don't hear his intro.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I didn't get that on the album, obviously, because it would have just flowed. I didn't realize that, so that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, he says, I've never played this song live before, or something to that effect, and then
the loadout is a love letter to the crew, the roadies, the people behind the scenes. And so the fact that he has never played when he says, I've never played this live before, that tells me that this is a song that he's played privately, probably for the crew, parties, that sort of thing. Let me just sit behind the piano. I'm going to sing my roadie song. Hey guys, we're doing the loadout. And everybody laughs, smiles, holds up their beer, that sort of thing. So that they finally did it live. That's what that tells me. He really cares for the people behind the scenes.
Roll them cases out and lift them amps, haul them trusses down and get them up them ramps. 'Cause when it comes to moving me, you know you guys are the champs.
Maybe he would sit at his piano and play the song, and the guys would be taking down everything, and that'd be like a motivation for the crew as well. They get to hear like their own little concert. Yeah, that'd be nice.
So just make sure you got it all set to go before you come from my piano.
Now, theoretically, because he's got that line, just be sure you've got it all set to go before you come for my piano. Do you really want piano being the last thing on the truck? Yeah, that if I'm the guy in charge of packing these trucks, after what I've learned on the Peter Pan tour, because that's an amazing crew. And because of this song, I knew what a load in and a load out was. I wouldn't have a clue. But then it also made me think, the shows and tours are very precise things. Maybe not in the 70s, but they are today. Things are timed. Everything is down to a science. Would the promoter and the roadies and the unions be okay if you just decided to play a little longer and royally screw up everybody's time schedule? Would they be all right with that?
Not now. Maybe then they're a little more flexible.
JB, get off the stage.
Yeah. We got to pay everybody triple time if you're still singing.
As people, you've got the power over what we do. No, they don't. Yeah, you've already got your encore scheduled. You know exactly what you're playing.
Yeah, we know we got to get on the road to make it to the next gig and get everybody situated. Yeah, it's nowadays I would imagine be all time to the minute. Back then it was a little looser.
People, you've got the power over what we do. You can sit there and wait, or you can pull us through. Come along, sing the song. You know that you can't go wrong.
Back when hey, they're not cheering loud enough for an encore. What do you think, man? No, they go. No, it's pretty weak. Let's just go home.
Yeah, let's see if they cheer a little louder. If they cheer a little louder, we'll go back out. If not, man, we're done.
Was that ever a real thing? I don't know.
I can imagine it being a real thing.
maybe when you're like an up and comer, hey, you guys hear that? They really loved it. I think they want some more. But when you're Kiss or the Eagles, of course you're going to come out and do an encore.
Well, look at how volatile Van Morrison is. I've heard stories where he just drops some mic and just walks off during the middle of the song. I mean,
It doesn't surprise me.
yeah, he just doesn't like the way the audience is responding or whatever. He's done. He's out. I've heard that a couple times, so I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
I'll have to ask Luke. Luke's seen him a couple times.
Well, he's the one that told me one of the times. I don't know if it was where he saw him, but he told me that story once, and I'd heard it before. So I'm assuming he created or it actually happened. Anyway, so back to side two. Those two songs, you can't separate those two. Those
No, and anytime I've heard him it's like separating "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions." It sounds weird if you try to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So the final track 10 is "Stay," a cover from originally the Zodiacs, Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs doo-wop song, which I knew from the Dirty Dancing soundtrack before I had listened to this. I knew the original.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
People stay just a little bit longer. We want to play just a little bit longer.
Yeah, so this was a neat rearrangement of that song, which I'm glad I knew the original first, because to me, it just heightened my enjoyment of this one. It's really a neat version with the guest singers on this one. And for years, I thought that was Maurice Williams, or I didn't know his name, but I thought it was the original guy who just, like they do in encores, walks on stage, crowd cheers, he sings his old part,
Yeah.
and then leaves. I thought that was who it was.
Yeah, I didn't get that impression, but I would have had no idea it was David Linden. I didn't know that until just recently. I think it was, I don't know. I always just assumed it was just some guy. I didn't, just a backup singer or something. You know what I mean? I didn't put it together. I wouldn't have never thought it, because all I ever knew of this guy was his exceptional multi-instrumental playing. I didn't know he could even sing. And apparently this is maybe the only time he ever did, or one of the very few times he ever did. And was it a joke?
I don't know if that's his
joke?
regular. It might be his regular voice for all I know. I'm not sure. I've seen now the video of him from like 77 or 78 where he's doing it, and I'll send you the video when we're done here. He's got long hair, like you would think of long dark hair, like you would in the 70s, and cuts into
I'm thinking it's like a Tiny Tim moment or something. Tim on stage to sing this song.
Take a count out Rosemary Butler for her part too. She crushes it.
Yeah.
In her verse as well. It's one of the best parts of this track to me, though, is also the play out at the end.
Thank you all again.
It's a great play out to the whole album. Everyone kind of is in sync and has their own little solos. There's the keyboard, there's everything. And it's, and then you still hear Jackson in the background. Y'all have a good night now. It's a great play out to a live concert.
I wonder if he, at the end, maybe the roadies all got to walk out on stage and, I don't know, take a bow, or if they ever got acknowledged like that during these shows or any of his shows, because it would be a perfect time to do that. Let's bring the crew out and acknowledge them, because let's face it, this from being on the Peter Pan or involved in it, it's those people that keep the show going. Ultimately, it's the behind the scenes people that keep the show going. It's the cast could do nothing if it wasn't for people like that, setting up, tearing down, putting up mic stands, blah, blah, blah.
But I will say, as far as before the show's even over, they're packing up sections. They're Those roadies and stuff, they're in Peter Pan. It's obviously not roadies, but everyone has a very specific crew function. But
Right.
they are a fine-tuned machine. They know exactly what, by the song that's playing, they should be packing up and already moving towards the truck this piece of equipment from like this section of Neverland's already been used. It's gone.
Yeah, we're not going to use it again during the show.
On our last day, obviously the load, this was like multi-day, 1 week here, 1 week there. So if you're on a 1970s bus tour, that could be one night in Jersey, the next night you're in New York, the next night you're in Maine. They're just bouncing all over the place.
And time would be of the essence, I would think, in most of those situations too.
I've been to concerts where the person in charge, like Bob Seger did this, and I want to say Paul McCartney did too, where he acknowledges the crew, not just introduces the band, but might even say a couple of my crew manager, things like actually mentioning the names of the people that are making it happen behind the scenes. More artists should do that. Give those people credit.
Neil Young did it too in one of the concerts I saw. They call them the Road Eyes, and then he had, and I don't remember the one part, but the roadies came out and they had black hoods and they had eyes like aliens.
Russ Never Sleeps tour.
Road Eyes. I remember that.
Yeah, that was the tour that led into the Live Rust album.
Nice. So what we talked to a little bit about your standouts. You had mentioned The Road as one. Is there any other standout tracks?
For me, are definitely The Road and Cocaine. Those are two that often make it into playlists that I do. They're two gems, and everyone needs to hear them.
Oh, was there any skippable tracks on this?
Not anymore. That You Love the Thunder and Love Needs a Heart, maybe in high school, but as I've grown with the album over the years, I don't like to skip any at all anymore.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like I said before, but I dropped the needle from side one, and the whole album flows together like I think it probably should. And so I don't ever skip any either personally. You have anything else you want to add to what we talked about? There's so much on this album. We could probably go on for.
Just a thank you to my dad for having that cassette. Set me on a certain classic folk rock path there. I will say that my favorite Jackson Browne song is not even on this album, though. These Days is a beautiful song. And when he does that solo acoustic, beautiful.
Don't confront me with my failures. I had not forgotten them.
Yeah, and this album slotted in. The Pretender album would have came right before this, which was huge for him in 76. And then this came out, what was it, 78? And this was at least at the very end of 77. It came out just in time for everybody to buy it for Christmas presents.
Yeah, early December of 77, this came out.
Yeah, and then after this one was the Holdout album. Damn, between 76 and 80, that was probably his most fertile period, I would say.
Yeah.
For Jackson Browne. Those three albums right in a row. We have this album running on empty. What would be on your short lists, or what can we look forward to maybe in the future on another?
That's an excellent question, and I had not thought ahead to shortlist on this. To what I did for when I did my jazz album, and I mentioned a lot of my New Orleans jazz likes. I would say in this vein of type of album, I do love For Every Man. It's another great Jackson Browne album. Mm-hmm. Solo Acoustic Volume 1 from like 2005. That's really a fun album to listen to. It's very intimate as far as just him on stage, and he talks a lot to the crowd, almost like a VH1 Storytellers kind of thing.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
And it starts out with, and obviously, again, all acoustic versions of the songs, but Barricades of Heaven, which is from Looking East, and the acoustic version is so much better than the album version. And sorry, Mr. Browne, if you're listening to this, but it just is. And then track 2 is These Days, which is my favorite version of These Days, is off that album. But he tells a story in between it, and there's actually, track 2 is actually him bantering. And he tells how, I think it was, who was with Nico? Velvet Underground and Nico and Andy Warhol and all that.
Yeah.
They performed These Days in a movie, and he had forgotten that he gave them the rights to do that and even played guitar on it. And he went and saw a movie and he's, hey, that sounds familiar. And
wow.
He doesn't dog the Eagles in the banter. At some point, someone says, play Peaceful Easy Feeling. I didn't even write that. And then he goes, I don't play in that one anyway, because it's got that line in there of a girl can't take you anywhere you don't already know how to go. And I just don't agree with that. Gets a good laugh from the crowd. So it's a lot of good banter, and the songs are beautiful on that one.
Cool.
And lastly, just because I've been in that mode lately, I'm going to throw out there Traveling Wilburys, Volume 1 and 2. I've just been throwing both of those on, and they are awesomely unique albums. To anyone that doesn't know, the Traveling Wilburys are Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and George Harrison. And they were like my first super group that I knew existed. I had already listened to others, but I didn't know they were super groups. This was one that I knew the people already. And Roy Orbison obviously passed away between the two albums, so he is missed on the second one. But that Volume 1 is like a 10, and then Volume 2 is a 9 on my scale. Just the two great albums, and each song is very uniquely written. You have some that they were just looking at labels of a magazine and making words out of it. And I would have loved to have just been a fly on the wall for those songwriting sessions. It would have been super cool.
Yeah.
So those are my recommendations for anyone that hasn't discovered them yet. Check out all those albums.
So you want to tell us about any of your other projects, or do you have anything else going on?
Like we talked earlier, I am going to pause on Music Rewind. So I'm just going to stop and take a break. Been going over a year strong on season 4, and not that I'm burnt out. I just want to take a pause. I already got a couple guys lined up for future season 5. There's some, like, off the top of my head, The Clash, London Calling, and Reserved, and there's a couple others, which I didn't realize was a double album. I got homework to do on that one. Cinema Decon, though, my movie podcast has been resurrected. It's been out of commission since the end of COVID, and scheduling went our different ways as far as we couldn't sync up to do any more. But we're coming back with a movie tournament. We're going to find the best movie of each decade. It's been a lot of fun putting together the lists, and we're doing the battles, and we're like,
that sounds pretty ambitious.
It's a lot of fun. And we've got a panel of 5 people, and each round gets a vote. There's no ties. Who knows? We may have The Godfather versus Rocky Horror Picture Show in the championship. Something crazy. You never know. Never know. And last, I've been recently a revolving co-host on the Thrash N Treasure Podcast, which is a fascinating concept. It's a guy in Australia runs it named Aaron, and he came up with the idea to bring on as guests Broadway and West End and around the world stage legends. Like, these people are high-end legends of the stage, and ask them to look at a metal album, because metal, when you really break it down, can be extremely theatrical. It really can. And it's really neat to talk with these people about it. I've already been on 4 episodes. One was even the King George III in Hamilton in the West End. He won the Olivier Award for it. Michael Gibson. Fantastic conversation. Just 2 days ago, I was talking with Kay Tuckerman, who has been on Broadway in the Donna Summers musical and others, Mamma Mia. So just really great people. Fantastic talent that this guy gets on his show, and it's a pleasure to even be on a video session with them. So it's really cool. And the last one, Reed even popped in and said hello to. It was cute.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's where we're at. Fitting the podcast in around my son's acting schedule. He's all over the place with different bookings and different auditions, and we're back and forth to New York a lot. And that's fascinating to be on the parental side of a child actor, but it's a lot of fun. At Reed Epley Actor on Instagram, if you ever want to see his exploits. He's even got a cartoon coming out this fall.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. All right, Steve, it was a pleasure, as always, to sit with you and talk about Jackson Browne's Running on Empty.
Thank you again for flipping the script on us and coming back as a guest host. These are great episodes. I love being in the hot seat.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Music Rewind. As always, we appreciate a rating and review wherever you listen, and go to musicrewindpodcast.com for information on the show, more extras, and future episodes. So, as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time.
A podcast from the Sidereal Media Group. Back to you, anchors.